Look, guys, the first round of the NFL playoffs is done, and I've talked about all the losing teams so far. So let's go ahead and talk about the teams that moved on and make our predictions here. Starting off with the Bills Ravens. Guys, I think this will probably be the best game of this weekend. I could actually see the Texans Chiefs game being pretty close too. The Bills and Ravens met earlier this season, and it looked pretty rough for the Bills overall. But something a lot of people are forgetting is that this Bills team is a much better team now than they were back in that week 4 game. And it feels like that week 4 game, I was talking about it to my friends at the time. It really felt like it was a get right game for the Ravens, and having a big game like that was great for them. But the Bills were missing key pieces in quite a few spots. They were missing a couple defensive players, and both of them have been back now, and their run defense has gotten much better since this week 4 game. So I'm not going to discredit the Bills in this game. Now, who do I think will win? I would take the Bills in this game over the Ravens. This is just because I really like how the Bills have built their team throughout the season and the growth they made even since that week 4 game. Although they started 3-0, they've really been on fire since past this game. They only lost, I think, one or two more games throughout the season. One of them was against a Rams team building much momentum. The other game was against the Texans, which at the time, throughout the regular season, didn't look like a great loss to have on your schedule, but at the same time, this Texans team really rallied against the Chargers and will put up a good fight against Kansas City, who the Bills actually managed to beat. I like the Bills, though, mainly because of how they play the game. They really control the ball game, and it's going to be much harder to do that against the Ravens, but how they did it against the Broncos, especially what was a pretty solid defense, although they had flukes, I'd really like the Bills in this game. I'd say it's a close game, though. I'd honestly take a score of like 27-21. I think that Justin Tucker might miss a field goal or two, and it really solidifies that he's over in Baltimore. He's been one of the probably bottom half kickers in the league so far, but I would really like the Bills this game. Now, what I feel like is the upset pick of the divisional round that I've seen a lot of people take is going to be the Texans over the Chiefs. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't hate it if it was any other one seed except for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not just because of how it feels like the refs have been slightly favored for them, but also just that this team finds a way. And as much as it sucks to say that because I'm not a big fan of them, I can't let my bias overtake the fact that this is a good Chiefs team. Will the Texans beat them? Honestly, wouldn't surprise me, right? Like, I think that Texans game is really going to set the tone for teams to watch out, right? The Texans that we saw in that game is what everyone expected the Texans to be this season, and not, what we saw them against the Ravens on Christmas. That's not the Texans people thought they'd be. It was in the wild card round against the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, Justin Herbert didn't have a great game there, and I think Mahomes will do a much better job controlling the ball. With that being said, I'd honestly take the Chiefs in this game because the Texans are a bit more banged up than when they played the Chiefs originally 3-4 weeks ago. So that's why I take the Chiefs. I really think it'll be close, though. And look, don't get me wrong. An upset's very possible here. I'd rather see the Texans win, so we're not looking at another Chiefs Bills or Chiefs Ravens championship game. It's just been annoying seeing these repetitive matchups, but it's not our fault. It's not the NFL's fault that teams are struggling to build their rosters. But I'd honestly take the Chiefs in this game. It wouldn't surprise me if it went to overtime. I think this Texans team has a lot of grit. Give me a score though, 23-20. Look, guys, the Lions and Commanders, I could see this being probably the least close game of the divisional round. I think that the Commanders team, they have a fair share of experienced players on their roster, and although their core players are young, they do have some veterans there on the team, like I said. So I just think that the Lions did not get the one seed, and they're not going to do this good in the season just to go out there and lose in the divisional round, their first playoff game. First round for them, technically. I think that this is a team that will at least win one game because they are so good up and down the lineup. They have a solid receiving core, of course. Obviously, you have Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, David Montgomery is going to be playing this game, which is great to see. You got Sonic and Knuckles back, as they even dressed up as. So this game, I think the Commanders, they're going to have to be aggressive like they were against the Bucks. They're probably going to have to game plan very similar to how they did against the Bucks, because this Buccaneers team was kind of similar to the Lions. I think you just have more talent on the Lions roster, and I also think they have the better head coach. No disrespect to Todd Bowles, but Dan Campbell is a great coach, great motivator, and very good overall coach. So I think I would take this game. I think the Lions will control it. Commanders might try to keep it close. Probably going to be a 10-point game, though. I take the Lions in a probably 31 to 24 game against the Commanders. And yes, that is a 7-point game, not a 10-point game, but I'd say 31-21, 31-24, somewhere that range. Look, guys, the Eagles-Rams, probably one of the other most gritty teams in the playoffs is the Rams. We saw them really dominate the Vikings, although the score wasn't entirely a blowout. It was a bit of a blowout still. So, anyway, though, the Eagles playing the Rams, the Eagles aren't going to lose in the divisional round. They got that good win against the Packers. Obviously, you want to see some of that game cleaned up, but it was still a good win against the Packers. And I think the Rams will keep this very good game. I think we have such a good divisional round this year, but I really would take the Eagles over the Rams this game. Obviously, maybe some people will say the Rams are fueled by what's going on in LA right now, but I think the Eagles are most definitely the better team. I like their O-line against the Rams defensive front. I think the Rams will still get home a couple times, still get a couple sacks, but I think that this Eagles receiving core even matches up good against the Rams defensive backs. I think the Rams are good. I don't know if they're quite going to be good enough to keep up with this Eagles squad, though. And obviously, you have Saquon. So, and now the Eagles defense, solid defensive front. Obviously, you have a very fine secondary. Your linebacker core, maybe the Rams could take a small advantage of that. But I really would take the Eagles over the Rams in this game, and I'd even be willing to put, I don't know, $5 on it. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys are interested in looking at what I said about the losers from the wild card, go and check that out. Have a good one.